I'm going to cover in this module I'm going to cover a very important topic in the intensive care unit, and that is the mechanical ventilation. The objectives of my talk are to understand the physiology of mechanical ventilation, to understand the basic modes of mechanical ventilation, when and how to initiate invasive mechanical ventilation, and to understand the monitoring and complication during invasive mechanical ventilation. If I want to broadly say the indications for starting the invasive mechanical ventilation is of course acute severe hypoxemic respiratory failure. It could be acute hypercarbic respiratory failure when the non-invasive ventilation is either contraindicated or has failed in a patient who is apneic, or a patient in whom you want to reduce the work of breathing, like in a patient of shock. I want to mention little here that in a patient of shock, although he is able to maintain his oxygenation, but his work of breathing, he is breathing at a very high rate, and the oxygen cost of breathing is very high. A lot of oxygen is being consumed by the respiratory muscles, and there is decreased oxygen to the vital organs. In this module, I am going to cover a very important topic in the intensive care unit, and that is the mechanical ventilation. The objectives of my talk are to understand the physiology of mechanical ventilation, to understand the basic modes of mechanical ventilation, when and how to initiate invasive mechanical ventilation, and to understand the monitoring and complication during invasive mechanical ventilation. If I want to broadly say the indications for starting the invasive mechanical ventilation is of course acute severe hypoxemic respiratory failure. It could be acute hypercarbic respiratory failure when the non-invasive ventilation is either contraindicated or has failed in a patient who is apneic, or a patient in whom you want to reduce the work of breathing, like in a patient of shock. I want to mention little here that in a patient of shock, although he is able to maintain his oxygenation, but his work of breathing, he is breathing at a very high rate, and the oxygen cost of breathing is very high. A lot of oxygen is being consumed by the respiratory muscles, and there is decreased oxygen to the vital organs. So if you ventilate these patients, you take away the oxygen cost of breathing, and this will be available to the vital organs for their good functions. So this is also one of the indications where in modern days you do invasive ventilation in a patient of severe shock. Another thing which I want to say here is that mechanical ventilation should be considered early in the course of illness and should not be delayed until the need becomes emergent. It should not be emergency situation like you intubate and ventilate. It should be always planned, and most of the time you should be doing the intubation impending severe acute respiratory failure rather than emergency situation to arise and then ventilate. Physiological and clinical findings are helpful in assessing the severity of illness. However, I think the decision to initiate mechanical ventilation should be based on clinical judgment that considers the entire clinical situation rather than just a one ABG or a one parameter. So when you ventilate a patient, you have certain goals. Goals could be to maintain adequate oxygenation, like in a patient of acute hypoxemic respiratory failure, ARDS patient, or it could be to bring down the PaCO2 to acceptable level, like in an acute hypercarbic respiratory failure, and to reduce work of breathing, which could be in COPD patients, which could be in any respiratory patient, and also in a patient of shock. And you should ventilate in such a manner that you do not cause harm to the patient. That means you prevent ventilator associated lung injury. Now, when you enter into an ICU, the most glamorous or a fancy looking piece of equipment in the ICU is a ventilator. with lot of alarms, with lot of graphics, and it is very intimidating. But let me tell you, all ventilators, what they do just one thing. They push air into the lung. They give you a mechanical breath. Normally when you breathe, you create a negative pressure inside your lung and the air flows into the lung. In an invasive mechanical ventilation, they push the air under positive pressure. That's why it is called the positive pressure ventilation. Like you do a bag mask ventilation with the ambush bag. You push air into the lung under positive pressure. So mechanical ventilator, they give a mechanical breath under positive pressure. So to give a breath, there has to be a source of air. It is most of the times either a compressor in the mechanical ventilator machine itself, or there is a centralized compressor which you get in your ICU, the compressed air. Then this air comes to the ICU, and then there is a microprocessor based machine which we call as a ventilator, which control the gas flow to the patient. For patient to access gas from the ventilator, there are two sets of wall. One is the inspiratory wall and the other is an expiratory wall. Inspiratory wall is connected to an inspiratory limb, which is connected to the endotracheal tube, and through a Y connection there is an expiratory limb and the gas goes out. So during inspiration, the inspiratory wall opens, the gas flow starts, and then when the breath is delivered, the expiratory valve opens and the gas goes out. So in a simplistic terms, this is what all the ventilator do. They push the mechanical breath into the patient. So in this, let's try to understand the physiology of positive pressure breath. On the x-axis, there is time. On the y-axis, there is a pressure. And you see on the upper part, there is a cartoon showing the inspiratory limb and there is the inspiratory wall, and then there is to the upstream to the patient is the endotracheal tube, and then there is another wall which is the expiratory wall. And during positive pressure ventilation with a volume cycle breath, inspiratory flow begins when the inspiratory valve opens, as you see in the first diagram. And at this stage, the expiratory valve is closed. This is the beginning of the inspiration. The pressure will rise, and the highest pressure which you get during the volume cycle breath during inspiration is called the peak inspiratory pressure or a peak airway pressure. It is influenced by a variety of factors that includes airway resistance, the compliance, the flow rates, the tidal volume, and the baseline pressure, which is the PEEP. Because it is the pressure which is directly dependent on the resistance, it is very sensitive to flow rate. It is important to note that peak airway pressure is significantly affected by the airway resistance, and it is not the pressure which is being felt by the alveoli, which will determine the ventilator associated lung injury. So if the inspiratory valve is closed at the peak airway pressure, as you see in the second diagram, the pressure will fall because there is no flow, and the pressure will fall, which is lower than the peak airway pressure, and this pressure is called the plateau pressure. Since the effect of flow resistance is eliminated, that's why the plateau pressure is low pressure, and this depicts the alveolar pressure. At this stage, the inspiratory valve is closed, and during the end inspiratory, there is equilibration of pressure between all the open lung unit communicating with the central airway, which is the plateau airway pressure. In most modern ventilator, you can see the plateau pressure by using the control mark, the inflation hole, which you give for a few seconds and you get the plateau pressure. And if it is not there, you can give a 0.3 to 0.5 seconds of the inflation hole and you or the plateau or a pause, and you can see the plateau pressure. And now in the last diagram, you see the expiratory valve opens and then there is an expiration. Now if you want to see the same thing in a volume cycle breath when it is delivered, in a flow time graphics, the time is on the x-axis, the flow on the y-axis. So when the inspiratory valve opens, there is a flow starts, and at this stage expiratory valve is closed. This is the beginning of inspiration, as you see by the first arrow. The inspiratory flow rate will rise to the peak inspiratory flow rate, which is maintained all through the inspiration, and when the inspiration ends, the expiratory valve opens, and then there is an expiration. One thing I would like to say here is that expiration is a passive process. It is not controlled by the ventilator. Whatever mode you give, the expiration will appear the same. Whether you give a volume preset mode or a pressure preset mode, the expiration will be passive and will appear same on the flow time graphics. Now, when a mechanical breath is delivered, or when the flow starts, it produces changes in the pressure, volume and flow in the respiratory system, and that are directly dependent on the mechanics of the respiratory system. So when you deliver a mechanical breath, pressure, volume and flow can change. But any given point, you can control one of them, the other two will be dependent on the airway resistance and the compliance of lung and chest wall. For example, in a volume controlled breath, the flow rate or tidal volume is controlled by the ventilator, and the changes in the resultant airway pressure is dependent on the resistance and compliance of the respiratory system. I want to add here, the most of the modern ventilators, they are flow controllers. They are not volume controllers, and the volume is derived as a product of flow rate and inspiratory time. What I'm trying to say is that if you, let's say you fix up a rate, the flow rate of 60 liters per minute, and you fix up a tidal volume of 500. So 1 liter in 1 second, so this 500 will be delivered in 0.5 seconds. Okay, so the tidal volume is determined by the ventilator as a product of the flow rate and inspiratory time. As I was telling, all the ventilators, they give a mechanical breath. So to deliver a mechanical breath, the flow has to start, the inspiratory valve has to open. So the factor which will open the inspiratory valve and starts the flow is called the trigger. Now, then there is an inspiratory fall. One or more variables during this period will not rise of a value which you have fixed on a ventilator, and that's why it is called the limit. Like you fix up flow 60 liters per minute. So all through inspiration, whatever pressure is required, ventilator will ensure that the maximum pressure during inspiration does not rise above 60 and it is delivered to the patient. Similarly, in a pressure controlled breath, you fix up a pressure of 20 centimeter of inspiratory pressure. So all through inspiration, this will not rise beyond 20 centimeter of water and the breath will be delivered. So it is called limit, or it is, some people call it a target. First is the initiation of the breath, that's called the trigger. The inspiratory phase, which is called the limit, one or more values which will not exceed all through the inspiration. During the inspiratory phase, that's called the limit. Now this can't go on forever. This has to stop. The inspiratory valve has to close and the expiratory valve has to open. The factor which will end the inspiration is called the cycling. And then there's a expiration, which is a passive process. As you can see on this, the trigger, the flow starts, and then there is during the inspiratory phase, the patient is getting a volume, and then in the inspiration, the inspiratory valve closes, the expiratory valve opens, and then there is an expiration. During pressure controlled breath, there will be trigger, the inspiratory valve will open, patient will get a uniform pressure, and depending on the inspiratory time, the inspiratory phase will end, and then there will be cycling. So this way, there are the 4 phases of mechanical breath. These phases, they help us to explain how a ventilator starts, sustains and stops in inspiration, and what it does in between inspiration, that is the expiratory phase. So let's go into more detail about these phases. The trigger is ventilator needs to know when to start a breath. So a ventilator breath may be initiated by the patient or by the ventilator. When it is triggered by the ventilator, you call it a time trigger. When it is triggered by the patient, you call it a patient trigger. In time trigger, patient initiates the breath according to this set frequency independent of the patient effort. So what I mean to say is that if you fix up the breath rate of 12 per minute, every 5 seconds the inspiratory valve will open and patient will get a mechanical breath. That's a time trigger. Now the patient can also trigger the ventilator. When patient trigger the ventilator, the machine has to sense something. So it can either sense a pressure, which actually came into existence first, and then, or it can sense the flow. The pressure triggering, it requires the patient to create a small negative inspiratory pressure, 1 to 3 centimeter of water, depending on what you put on the ventilator. The negative pressure is sensed by the ventilator, and the ventilator, the inspiratory valve will open and the breath delivery will start. With the best possible mechanics, the pressure triggering delay will be minimum 110 to 120 milliseconds. So there is a gap between the signal from the brain to the initiation of flow about 110 to 100 milliseconds. So because of this, the flow triggering came into existence because they said the triggering delay is less in this. This is more effective. So the machine will sense the flow when a patient makes an effort, creates a flow of 1 to 3 liters per minute. The mechanical breath will start as the inspiratory valve opens. And the triggering delay is less with this. But still there is a triggering delay. So in last about a decade, they came with a neural triggering. That means, when a signal starts from the brain, it goes to the diaphragm and then the flow starts. And there is a gap between the diaphragm starting contraction and the starting of the airflow. So what they did was put a lead through like a nasogastric tube into the lower end of the esophagus. When it detects the diaphragmatic contraction, the airflow starts. This is what is the neuro triggering and what is available as now. Now, whenever there is a patient-initiated breath, will always have a small pressure deflection below the baseline, denoting patient inspiratory effort. A machine-initiated breath will not have any negative deflection below the baseline. You call it trigger sensitivity, that is the amount of signal required to initiate a breath. Like in a pressure triggering, as I said, 1 to 3 centimeter of water. Similarly, flow triggering, 1 to 3 liters per minute. So this is called the trigger sensitivity. The second phase, as I said earlier, is called the limit. That means one or more variables will not rise higher than the preset value, like a flow or a pressure. This is the phase of the inspiratory cycle, which begins with the initiation of breath and ends with the ventilator cycle into expiration. Inspiratory valve is open, expiratory valve is closed. However, this limit does not terminate the inspiration. So do not confuse with the pressure limit, which cuts off the. This is for the delivery. It allows inspiration to continue till the cycling criteria is reached, but at the set limit, like the fixed pressure and or a fixed flow, fixed pressure in a pressure controlled breath, fixed flow during the volume controlled breath. As I said earlier, the mechanical breath, the first phase is triggering when the inspiratory flow starts. The second phase is the limit, which could be a pressure in a pressure controlled breath, and it could be flow in a volume or a flow controlled breath. Now this inspiratory phase has to end, and that is what we call as cycling. That means changeover from inspiration to expiration. Inspiration ends when some variable has reached a preset value. It could be time, like in a pressure controlled breath, the time which you have fixed as an inspiratory time, when that ends, it will cycle to the expiration. In a volume controlled breath, it is the volume when it is reached, it cycles to the expiration. But in fact, in the modern ventilators, they are flow controllers rather than a volume controllers, and volume is derived as a product of flow rate into inspiratory time. So actually, whether it's a volume controlled breath or a pressure controlled breath, both are time cycle. But to understand, we always talk of pressure controlled breath as a time cycle and a volume controlled breath as a volume cycle, but actually that is also time cycle. Or it could be flow when the expiratory flow reaches a preset value. This is in a pressure support ventilation, which I shall discuss little later. Then it could be a pressure also, when pressure reaches some preset value. Most of the time, this is a safety limit. You fix up a pressure limit so that the lungs do not get affected. So when that is reached, it will cut off and will cycle to the expiration. Then there is an expiration phase from the start of the expiratory flow to the beginning of inspiratory flow. It is a passive process. It is not controlled by the ventilator. So when the inspiratory valve closes, expiratory valve opens, and then it will go to a pressure which you have set as a PEEP in your ventilator. So mechanical breath, just to revise, has 4 phases: triggering, the limit, the cycling, and the expiratory phase. Now there are 2 kinds of or 2 sets of breath most of the ventilator will do. So time cycle. Or it could be flow when the expiratory flow reaches some preset value. Most of the and will cycle to the it is a passive pressure which you have set, the cycling, and ventilator will deliver. I think it's important to understand the kind of breath a ventilator delivers, then you can or 2 sets of breath most of the ventilator will deliver. I think it's important to understand the kind of breath a ventilator delivers, then you can understand the modes much better. So it could be a volume control breath or a volume preset breath. This is actually, as I said, is a flow control breath or a pressure control breath. In a volume control or a flow control breath, your set parameter is a tidal volume, and the airway pressure will vary depending on the airway resistance and the compliance of lung and chest wall. The patient will get constant tidal volume, whatever is the change in the lung characteristic. But the problem in this is that if the patient flow demand is high and the ventilator is not delivering the flow which you set on a ventilator, then it will result in a patient ventilatory asynchrony due to the fixed flow rate. And there is no leak compensation in the volume control or a flow control breath. In a pressure control breath or a pressure preset breath, you set up the airway pressure, inspiratory pressure like 15 centimeter or 20 centimeter or whatever. Tidal volume delivered will be vary. It will depend on the airway resistance, compliance of lung and chest wall, the inspiratory pressure you are giving to this patient. So that will determine that how much volume the patient will get. And suppose you start at a higher pressure, and as the lung compliance get better, the patient may get more volume. This is the problem with the pressure control breath. Flow is not a problem because flow will vary according to the patient demands, and it compensates for leaks. So this is another advantage of the pressure control. There is another breath, pressure support breath, which I shall discuss later. So there are 3 kind of breath based on the 4 phases which I discussed: trigger, the limit, cycling and expiration, volume control, pressure control, and a pressure support breath. So if you see in this slide, I have already discussed what is written. Tidal volume is constant in volume control or a flow control, and a pressure control, the tidal volume is variable. Peak inspiratory pressure is variable in volume control, it's constant in pressure control. Inspiratory time is actually set in both. Inspiratory flow you set in a volume control, it's variable in pressure control. Inspiratory flow waveform you most of the time you should go for a square waveform, but you can also set the waveform is deaccelerating in a pressure control. As you can see on the graphics on the right side in the pressure control, there is a deaccelerating flow. Is a typical feature of a pressure control modes. The pressure gradient between the lung and the breathing system is maintained by the ventilator at a constant level, which provides the driving force for the flow. What I mean is that at the beginning of inspiration, the pressure in the ventilator is high and the pressure in the lung is the peak level. So there is a gradient which provides the gradient provides the source for the airflow into the lung. As the filling in the lung increases, the pressure in the lung also rises. So this reduces the pressure gradient and the flow drops continuously as the pressure equalizes between the ventilator and the lung. What I mean to say is that you started with 20 centimeter of water pressure from the ventilator and there is a 4 peak. So now as the flow is being delivered, the pressure in the lung is rising. So gradient is decreasing, and as the gradient decreases, the flow will keep on falling. So always in a pressure preset ventilation, you will have a deaccelerating flow, as you can see on the right side. The pressure versus time, as you can see the graphics below, exhibits a square pattern indicating that the pressure remains at the preset level throughout the inspiratory phase, and peak flow is the result of the set pressure level, the patient lung characteristics and the patient inspiratory effort. Now let's see on the left side is a typical feature of a volume oriented mode of ventilation or volume controlled breath. Most modern ventilators, I said, was of flow controllers, and tidal volume is derived as a product of flow rate and inspiratory time. Thus, in a volume controlled ventilation, once set by the physician, both the flow rate and time remain constant from breath to deliver the volume which you have fixed on the ventilator. Expiration, whether it is a volume controlled breath or a pressure controlled breath, is totally passive phenomena and is not assisted by the ventilator in any way. Thus, the expiratory waveform is similar in volume and a pressure controlled ventilation, and it gives a valuable information about the mechanics of the respiratory system during expiration. This is also independent of the type of ventilation which we are giving to the patients. There are certain terminologies which we used mentioning about the type of breath. We call it a mandatory breath when ventilator determines either the start of inspiration or end of inspiration or both. Assisted breath is a word used when it is a patient trigger. Spontaneous is when the start and end both are determined by the patient, you call it as spontaneous. And you say supported breath if inspiratory pressure is greater than the baseline, you call it a supported breath. Mode, when you use the term mode, there are various kinds of modes. Modes actually mean it specify the manner in which the mechanical breath is delivered to the patients. And the common breaths which I have discussed is a volume control or a pressure control breath. So how these are delivered to the patient. So there are commonly used modes like controlled mechanical ventilation, assist controlled mechanical ventilation, SIMV or synchronous intermittent mandatory ventilation, pressure support, high frequency ventilation. So I shall be discussing these one by one. So first I will discuss the controlled mechanical ventilation. In controlled mechanical ventilation, patient does nothing. All breaths are initiated by the ventilator. So all are time triggered at a preset frequency. So whatever frequency you fix up on the ventilator, patient will get that many mechanical breaths. They could be a pressure controlled breath or a volume controlled breath. And they will be pressure limited if it's a pressure controlled breath. They will be flow limited if it is a volume controlled breath. And there will be time cycle if it is a pressure controlled breath, and it would be volume cycle if you are giving a volume controlled breath. Or in fact that is also time cycle. As you see in this graphics, which is showing on the left side, the pressure targeted ventilation or the pressure control, CMV pressure control, and on the right side you see CMV volume control. If you see, the x-axis is time, and on the y-axis there is a flow, pressure and volume. As you can see on the left side, since it is a pressure control breath, the pressure in the middle graph is uniform all through the inspiration, the flow is deaccelerating, and the volume will vary depending on the airway resistance compliance. On the right side, it's a volume control breath where there is no negative deflection, so all breaths are initiated by the machine, the flow is uniform, and the pressure varies depending on the airway resistance compliance of the lung and chest wall, and the volume delivered is uniform in all breaths. So this is the control mode. Control mode is usually given in the anesthesia, during anesthesia, or when patient is apneic, or when patient is paralyzed. But you normally nowadays we do not paralyze patient. In a control breath, there was no interaction between the patient and the ventilator. Then there is an assist control. Assist control is that patient can access gas, patient can access the mechanical breath by triggering the ventilator. When patient makes an effort, he opens the inspiratory valve and he gets the mechanical breath, which is the assisted breath. But what you fix up on the ventilator is a backup rate. So if patient does not initiate, he will get a control breath from the ventilator. That's why it is called the assist control. Patient is ensured of certain breath per minute. At the same time, patient can initiate and access as many breath as many time patient triggers the ventilator. It could be a assist control volume preset breath, or it could be a pressure preset. If it is a pressure preset, you call it ACMV pressure control, and if it is a volume preset, you call it ACMV volume control. So as you can see in the graphics, in the time versus the flow, pressure and volume, in the middle graph you can see there is a negative deflection below the x-axis. So this shows that there is a patient initiated breath, and the patient will get the flow, and there is a volume which has been fixed on the ventilator. But if patient does not trigger, he can get a control breath. That's why it is called the assist control. None of the ventilator has a separate knob for control or assist control. There is a single knob. If patient is paralyzed or is apneic, then it becomes a pure control, and he will only get the breath and the tidal volume or the pressure which you have set on a ventilator. But if patient is not paralyzed, it becomes a assist control. So that means patient can trigger and get the mechanical breath from the ventilator. In assist control ventilation, the patient was getting support from the ventilator as many times as he was able to trigger the ventilator. In synchronized intermittent mandatory ventilation, this is
drive.